The Leaders Coach podcast is about connecting leaders to an identity that will help transform their leadership by engaging in conversations that lead to opportunities for growth, authenticity, and vulnerability. As we're unlocked, we simultaneously empower others to live and lead unique and authentic lives. Let's go deeper. Welcome to the Leaders Coach podcast with Dr. Shanita Brown. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the Leaders Coach with Dr. Shanita Brown. Hope you guys are having a fantastic week. I hope you're doing phenomenal. I hope that these episodes from the Leaders Coach has been helping you, has been blessing you, has been helping you to grow. Whatever it is, I just hope that it's been doing really, really good things for you. Hey, y'all, I am excited about this show that's coming up, that you guys are about to listen to this conversation. And in this conversation, we have my mom, one of the first leaders in my life, my mom. We're having this conversation about how to lead through parenting and how my mom was the first example of leadership. And leadership, I believe that it begins and it starts in childhood. At childhood, it starts knowing how your parents handle things, how they handle situations, how they are resilient, how they persevere, how they handle adversities. And you being able to see that, what it does is it cultivates you and how you handle things. How do I know that? Hey, I work in the school system. And so you see these different variables and you see these different things, and not to say that you are not an individual or my students are not their own individuals, because they are. But however, a lot of what we do and how we do has been modeled and has been seen, and we learn by example. We learn through example. And so this conversation with me and my mom is authentic. It's us, and we hope that you all will be able to glean something from it. Even for that parent who's new at parenting, or you're raising your kids, or you've already raised your children, and you may be listening to this podcast, and like me, I don't have children yet, but how do you lead those that follow you? How do you lead those in your organization or in your community? All of these same concepts can still apply to the ideal of how to lead through parenting, because you're still leading, you're just leading in a new way. And so we hope that these concepts will help you. They will it will just show you something, show you new perspectives, just show you something. You guys can engage in this conversation by going to Instagram, the Leaders Coach Pod. You guys can email us at leaderscoach@ShanitaBrown.com, leaderscoach@ShanitaBrown.com, or you guys can also on our website at the leaderscoachpodcast.com. You guys can check us out right there in the right corner. There will be a text message icon. Go ahead and click that link and chat with us. We want to hear from you. Share your thoughts. We hope that you enjoy this conversation. I know it's going to bring some value and some insight to you. Again, this has been the Leaders Coach with Dr. Shanita Brown. And one thing I want to leave you guys with, as you guys are listening to this conversation with me and my mama, I want you guys to think about how can you help people thrive in their strengths, whether you're leading them in the organization, in the company, or you're just simply parenting. How can you lead people in their strengths and help them thrive in those things, in those areas that they are great at? Enjoy this conversation. We have such a phenomenal person here. Our very first conversation here at the Leaders Podcast with someone that's very dear and near to my heart. And I guess, very near and dear. I was so close I'm probably closer to her than anybody's ever been, considering that she gave birth to me, right? And so this woman is just a phenomenal woman, and she's on the podcast today to really just talk about leading in in parenting, and how she has beat the odds, and how she has just allowed God to lead her in parenting. And so she is, I'll let her tell a little bit about herself if she wants, but again, just excited just to be here as it relates to having my mama, my number one, the lady who gave birth to me on the Leaders Coach. She gave birth to the Leaders Coach, y'all. I'm telling y'all, she gave birth to the Leaders Coach. So y'all put y'all hands together for none other than my mama, the one and only Lacy. Hey, how are you?
I'm wonderful.
Well, I appreciate you for joining us and being on today. Thank you for accepting the invitation. I don't know if she was voluntold or what, but she accepted the invitation to be here on the show today. And so I'm appreciative of you for being here today.
First, I would like to say just thank you for this platform, for allowing me to be a part of the Leaders Coach podcast. I feel honored as a guest, and I feel honored as your mother to be here to support you in any way that I can.
Yeah, well, you know what? I always appreciate you. You fed me, you raised me, you clothed me. She fed me all right. You know, one thing about it before we get into this conversation, you know, I look at the trajectory, because most of you guys know I'm an educator. And so I often ask my students, I probably shouldn't ask them this, but I often ask them, I say, man, do y'all parents still cook? They were like, what? Because, you know, it's so many restaurants popping up, and these kids eat sushi and hibachi. I didn't know what hibachi was until yesterday. You know, and so they eat hibachi and all these different things. And so one thing I do appreciate about my mom, and it could have just been the time that I was raised, you know, she was married. That's a full-time job. She was in full-time ministry, worked full-time, and had 3 kids, but yet we still had food on the table. And it wasn't just boxer, like she cooked. Like it wasn't like us going out to eat was a luxury. Like when we went out to eat, not that we were just like poor, but it was just the home cooked meal, the Sunday dinners, the family time. And so those are things that I really do, you know, appreciate just about my upbringing and about my mom, and you know, that's just the way they were raised as well. And so I hope I can pass that down to my kids. But the way it's looking, you know, we gonna be eating out and hibachi and sushi when they 3 years old. So, you know, but no, my mom gonna cook for them grandbabies. And so when that time comes, so we're gonna jump right into this. Again, it's an honor to have you, Mom, on this podcast. It is a platform, and so I can't call her Miss Lacy, so I'm gonna call her Mama. So when y'all hear me say Mama, y'all know I'm talking about my guest. And so let's go ahead and jump right into this podcast. And so one thing I do want to ask Mom is number one, you know, she had me when she was 19 years old, so she was fairly young when she did give birth to her firstborn child, which was me. And so I just want to just really just right now just talk about the ideal of the key to you being able to parent successfully, because you were 19 when you gave birth to me. And I think shortly after they got married, had my sister Kayla, then later on had Tyreek. And so just being, number one, being young and trying to explore this, what we call this trajectory and this transition of being a young woman to being a mom and being a grown lady. So what would you say was your key, or still is maybe your key to parenting success, considering the context that I just gave?
My key to success of parenting is just, at that time, being as young as I was, I realized that being a parent was priority. It was my priority. So it was no longer about me. So the 18-year-old had to grow up really fast in order to give my child the best opportunity of life that I could at that moment in my life. You being the oldest, I had to put away the childish things, and I had to put away the stinking thinking and concentrate on what it was I needed to do for my child. And so I had to grow up very fast and be responsible really fast. And I've always been mature for my age, so there wasn't so much of a burden. It was just something that I organically, naturally possessed. So, but if I'm honest, I did think about having to give up some of the time that I spent with my friends and going out and different things like that, and start to think like a mother.
Got you. And even with what you were saying, just to putting some of those childish things away, with you, what people will still kind of consider you being a child and just doing what was best for your kid. Like, do you see, well, your kids rather, see, I'm talking about her kids. See, I'm the only kid, not all her kids. So go ahead, you was gonna say something?
No, I was listening to you. At that time, you were the only kid.
The only one. First one that made her mama.
Yes.
And so just with that being said, just was there something that if you recall, that awakening you to say, man, I really, well, I guess what a better question would be, something that just awakening you to where you're like, this is real. This is the moment. I have to, what the young people say, I have to lock in. I have to get focused. I have to, I guess a better question would be this. Let me ask this. This is a better question. What was the specific moment, if you can remember, where you were like, this is real. This is real. My life is about to change. And it may not have been when you were pregnant. It may not have been when you gave birth to me. But when was that moment, if you can recall, when you were like, this is not play. This is real. This is for real.
When I found out that I was pregnant with you, that's when I knew, okay, this is a choice you made. So these are the things you had to do. And so immediately when I knew that I was pregnant with you, my mind shift changed.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was already mature for my age. I didn't do a lot of the childish things. I didn't do a lot of the going out. I didn't do a lot of the foolishness. I did engage in some activities.
Of course.
But for the most part, I was a very level-headed teen. So when I initially found out I was pregnant with you, life changed even the more. And so I knew that I was going to have to buckle down, and this is what it was going to be like. And I was excited.
Yeah.
I was excited to be a mom. I was ready for the well, at that time in my mind, I felt like I was ready for the challenge.
Yeah.
And so, hey, I was gonna do what I had to do.
Yeah. To have to do what you have to do, and I'm grateful that you did do what you had to do. And so, did you know what type of parent you wanted to become, or did you foresee? Well, before I ask you, how did you foresee our futures? I know that's, we're going to wait till after Tyree. We're going to wait till after 1997 before we get to that conversation. But did you know what type of parent you wanted to be going through this, or who you wanted to become to be the parent that you needed to be?
I had no idea what kind of parent I wanted to be in that moment. I just knew that I had to be a parent, and I think I was just living in the moment and whatever that mama presented, and I was gonna do my best to be the best mother that I could be, and so that's what initially I did. I didn't think about my dreams, my goals, anything like that, because I took accountability for the choice I made for doing the thing that I did to get pregnant, and so I didn't play the blame game. I just took my responsibility and said, this is what it's going to be like. I'm going to be a mother, and I'm going to be the best mother I knew how to be. What kind of mother I wanted to be outside the best, I didn't know in that moment.
That's good. I like that, because you said you wanted to be the best, but you didn't know what that was in that moment.
Right.
But you wanted to be that. I like that. I like that, because you were striving for something. And you were striving to for this ideal, because you knew, as you mentioned before, you knew that this is a responsibility.
Yes.
You made the choice to do this. You had to do what you had to do to get through to get to do what you were supposed to do that would be best for your kids. And so I like that. I like that. And we, you know, just being the best version of yourself. Mm-hmm. And that'll transition us into this next talk, because I remember growing up and people would say, because my mama parent differently. It was not, she parent differently. And what I mean by that, it wasn't, oh, Johnny and Sarah, they're over here doing whatever they wanted to do. My mom was like, she just, or people would say, well, you did that when you were younger. And my mom was like, you know, but that doesn't mean that my I was about to say my students, but my kids have to make the same mistake that I made. And so I think that stems from just that being the best. And so even with that transitioning, considering you parenting based upon what you thought were best and not what people were saying, or how they say, well, you weren't raised this way, or you did this. How did that change the way you parent? Did that make you think about, like, you know what, well, maybe they're right? Or did you continue to say, you know, I'm doing the best, right? Because you mentioned I'm going to stay on that pathway of the best.
Well, first of all, I realized that my obedience to God was more than my obedience to someone else. And I felt honored that if God chose for me to be a mom, whether it was at an early age or it was at a later age, that I was going to strive to raise my children the way God had instructed me to raise them, even as individuals.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that was my thing. I wasn't worried about what anything else anybody else said about that. I took being a parent as an honor, and I was so grateful to God. And I felt like if I failed at being a parent, then I was going to fail God. Oh. And I did not want to fail him, you know, because I remember times when I was a younger girl or young girl or whatever, there are things that I wanted as far as instruction and support that I wanted to be able to give to my children as well. So what other people thought, it didn't matter to me. Yeah. I was going to give my children the best choice of being successful and whatever that looks like for them to do that. And I knew that I was going to raise them in the admirations of God and in the ways that he would have me to raise them.
Yeah. And I would say you did that because I remember we all had our different gifts and talents, y'all. I'm telling y'all, I was the rapper. And so I would be in the room just rapping. My mom was like, cut that mess out, cut it out, cut all that out. And so, but then one thing I could say my mom did was she cultivated our gifts. She did. And that's one thing I want to pass down to my children when I have kids. She cultivated our gifts. So for me, let's just start. I was the rapper. I was rapping in the house. And even though it was different during that time, you know, people weren't really getting with gospel rap, and my mom was very encouraging. She always said, hey, only what you do for Christ will last. And then my sister, I hope they don't mind if I name drop, you know, we just having a conversation. We at home chilling. So Kayla, she was more into the dancing and very academically in tuned and smart and bossy. She's still bossy to this day. And then my brother Tyreek, he was just Tyreek. He would build forts in the living room to sleep in and build muscle men. And so with that being said, knowing that we all had these different strengths, these different talents, and you did cultivate it because you mentioned you want us to be the best that we could be. And so even with cultivating these gifts and talents, how was that when it came to leading and parenting? Because what I may have thought wasn't fair, Kayla may have thought what was fair. But one thing I can say about my mom was she gave us fairness according to, she saw the future, y'all. She gave us, I'm telling y'all, my mama, I saw what you did. I got eyes on the back of my head. I used to think that for real till the Lord said, girl, she lied. But you know, raising us according to our gifts and what we can handle and our capacities, I think that's really important. So how did that tie in with you knowing that you wanted the best for us, but understanding that you have to parent us differently, even if it didn't make sense to one of us of how you parent the other. So my question would be, how did, well, you could talk about how difficult that was, and how were you able to navigate through that? Because I'm sure it's of the parents that are having the same issues. How were you able to navigate parenting these different personalities, these different styles, without showing favoritism or saying, hey, this is not fair, but they don't understand it? You understand what I'm saying?
Prayer.
She said one word, prayer.
A lot of praying, a lot of observation, a lot of sitting down with you guys and trying to see where you were mentally. I wasn't always the best friend to you guys while y'all was growing up, because my role was to be mama. You know, that was my first responsibility to y'all, was to mother y'all, and not necessarily to be your friend. There are times when I wish that I probably would have been a little bit, you know, friendly to y'all. But I also know that sometimes when you are a little lenient with your kids as far as being friends, then they can take advantage of the situation. But I was gonna be mother first. But just praying and observing each of you guys. Even when I was pregnant with you guys, you know, I would rub my stomach and pray, you know, and ask God, how do I guide this kid that you've given to me, this blessing that you blessed me with, you know. And then also sometimes just living in the moment, just watching, you know, seeing what you guys was doing, what was your love. I remember Kayla, here I go name dropping.
That's all right. They go get us later.
So Kayla was the kind of kid that if you told her she could not do it, she was going to prove you wrong, even if she really couldn't. Like an example, basketball. Remember she was playing basketball? I
was praying she would quit. I said, oh, Lord, let her quit.
And I was like, baby, Kayla, that's not your gift. It's just how my mama played. Okay. But I still allow her to play so that she could see that she could do it. It wasn't the thing that she was best at. But, you know, still allow her to do it. But then with you, you know, you were like a silent assassin in a lot of ways. You didn't do a lot of the talking. You showed up. You know, you showed up in ways that I'm like, this kid right here, let me see, you know. So I always knew God had his hand on you and that you was going to be a leader. I'm going to tell you this real quick story.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was Don't Judge Me podcast.
Oh, go ahead.
I was a young mother. We were sleeping. You and I was in the bed, and some kind of way you had rolled out the bed. Lord, it wasn't nobody but Jesus.
She pushed me out. No,
I did not push you out the bed. But I woke up and I did not see my baby. I did not see Shanita, and I was so scared. I said, "What happened? Somebody that came in here and kidnapped my child? Where did she go?" And I was just worried. I didn't want to go tell my mama or anybody, you know, things like that, because I was just knew I was gonna get slammed if I did that. So something told me to look up under the bed. And I looked up under the bed, and you were just under the bed with your thumb in your mouth, just as quiet as sleeping, like nothing had happened. And I knew then, I said, "This gonna be the one right here. She gonna be the one to be able to lead some stuff. She gonna be able to handle adversity." Because that was an adversity for me. You was handling your mama's adversity at a young age. So just little things like that, how you deal with things, even as a baby. If we pay attention, we can tell how baby's gonna handle different things.
That's good.
And so I knew some things you were gonna be able to adapt to, you know, and that you were gonna be able to grow and flourish in some things, and that it was okay if you were alone. Well, I don't want to say alone, but just in that quiet moment, you know, that you will be okay with that. And so, like I said, if you pay attention to your babies while they're young and just look at them, develop, then you'll know as a mother what things they can handle and what things that they can't. And we have to be wise and being able to distinguish those things. And so that I was able to do that with the help of God, to know what kid could deal with what and what the outcome would be with whatever punishment I deemed. I don't want to say punishment, but discipline.
Discipline. Yeah.
That's a better word. And so we just have to pay attention to little things. The Bible says that it's the little things that confine the wise, or the small things.
The small things, yeah.
And so sometimes we have to pay attention to those small details. And so I think because I was able to kind of know how to nurture each of you as individuals, and the different positions you would. Maybe position not a good word, but in the different positions you would play. Development, how you would development here. And what you could handle and what you couldn't.
Yeah. And I can definitely see that even now. My mom made that about the under the bed thing. She's told me that before, and I was like, oh Lord. But I think that's true. I think even putting us in our strengths, we talked about Kayla with basketball. It was the same thing with me dancing. I would try praise dancing, and my mom was like, she encouraged you, but she's like, baby,
that's not your gift. That's not your gift. Dancing to the Lord, not unto the people. Because if you dancing to the people, you're going to be disappointed. But go on up there and do your dance for the Lord.
Yeah. It is funny because I even shared it with my students because they be like, baby, maybe look in a different direction, because again, and it teaches you to how to, I wouldn't say push people into their gifts and their callings or their lane, but you don't want people to be wrong. Oh, that's good. You don't want people to be wrong so long. You be like, all right, well, and that's what I think parenting is a guidance. And when we did become those teenagers, I remember specifically, I wanted to go to a house party, and I think I was like a junior, senior, might have been a senior. And my mom, she didn't say no, because my mom would be like, she didn't. We don't have enough time to talk about all that. But my mom, she just didn't let us do whatever we wanted to do, and I do appreciate that. But that's another time. But I remember specifically my mom saying, "Hey, you just pray about it." She put the decision in my hands, right? And I did. I remember I remember this specifically. I went to sleep. I had a dream. There was a bunch of snakes, and I woke up. Told I don't know if you remember. I told you that dream. Said, Mom, I had a dream. There's a bunch of snakes at this house, at this party, and I made the decision not to go. So what my mom did in that moment was help me to, more critically think, just put me in a position to make life decisions for myself as she guided me. And so, Mama, when did you know the transition from telling us what to do to allowing us to make our own decisions, you guiding us? Do you remember a specific thing we did? Maybe it was me, Kayla, or Tyreek. You can use one of us. But from that transition of, no, you're going to do this, to, you decide what you want to do, to that guidance.
I don't know that it was specific moments, but I based my decision making for you guys based on your maturity. And so people can mature at different ages. For some people it's younger, some people it's later. So I based my decision on the maturity, and I compounded that with who you were at your core, to see if you can handle this, not just maturely, but mentally as well. And so based on your personality, and that's when I kind of started giving y'all the ability to make those own choices on your own. And even with that, I still would what do you think? So and I would always tell you, whatever choice you make sure it's yours, because whatever choice you make, be it good or bad, you're going to have to suffer the consequences. And so that's kind of how I would guide y'all in that situation. But it wasn't just a particular moment that I can remember. But mostly based on your maturity and your personality.
Yeah.
And what you showed me, you know, what
Yeah.
I saw.
Yeah.
I don't know what you was doing in school.
Yeah. No, we was too scared because I go back to my mom and say, I saw what you did at school. Like, oh, Lord, the Lord told me what you did. You'd be like, oh, gee. Because one thing about it, it's you already have well, I can speak for myself and at least my sister and my brother, but it was already a respect in my household with my mom, right? But then on top of her being spiritual, it was like, we were like, oh man, like her and Jesus are best friends. Like, cause there ain't nothing we can do that she will be like, y'all, you know. So, but she was like, me and Jesus just finished talking. But no, I do appreciate my mom and how she raised us. And so, Mom, what I want, because again, we're talking about leading and parenting, and one thing I do want to just have you to share with the people, because you did mention knowing your kids and spending that time with your kids. But what if there is a parent that was like you? Because again, I don't recall. Again, our child life was not perfect, so I don't want you to think we're painting this perfect story. But But my mom, she was there. I hope that makes sense. I know she worked, she full-time ministry, married, raising 3 kids. So for that parent, whether it's a male or female, but I know you heard her speak more to the females because you're a female, but to that parent that's like, I just don't have the time. I don't have the capacity. I'm tired, you know. What would you maybe say to that parent that's like, this is what's going on. This is what I'm feeling, and I'm not able. I don't know how to do this. It's too much. It's overwhelming. If you have anything to say to that parent.
Well, I'm gonna say this with as much respect as I can, and as lovely as I can articulate this. It ain't about you. And that's the way I looked at it. This is not about me. This is bigger than I, you know. And so I didn't have the luxury to say, well, I can, I don't have time. That just wasn't part of my vocabulary. And I understand that other people mindset mentally may vary from my thought process at that time of my life. But I often think that if we put ourselves in a position to be parents, then that's our first priority. It's just almost like when we seek God, we go to God for different things. He is our parent, right? So we want him to be there, right? If he ever got tired of us or treated us as we thought, where would that leave us?
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and
good.
I didn't want to leave my kids out there to be devoured by wolves. So it was my responsibility to be there and do what I needed to do, the best that I knew how to do, in order for them to become the productive adults they are now. So I would just say, it's not about you. I used to hate to hear people say when they had kids, I don't know if it was a song or something, but it's about me. It's about me. That used to do something to me. I'm like, oh, baby, it's not about you. It was about you before you had these kids. It was about you before you got married. It was about you then.
Yeah.
But now that you have this responsibility, it's not about you.
Yeah.
And I know in this time and era where we always talking about self-love, that sounds like a little harsh, you know, but you can still practice self-love.
That's good.
And understand that it's not just all about you.
And that's so true, because as leaders, what we do, we look at the best interest of our people. And then even just hearing our conversation, and we put people in their strengths. And parenting is the same way. With leadership, you're empowering, you're putting people in their strengths, you're helping them understand hopefully their worth. You're spending that quality time, because leadership is relationship, and it goes just along with being a parent, and just even with that relationship. And so, Mom, I want to ask you this question real quick. Actually, I want to ask you 2, but number 1 would be
one at a time, because I'm getting old.
So
and
Let me ask
You
this
asking
one.
me all these questions. I'm like, okay, what was that she just said? So I don't know if I'm answering you according to what you're asking. So
Gotcha.
break it up for
Break
me.
it up. Okay, I'm gonna break it up. All right, it's real simple. What do you like most about being a parent?
Oh God. Ooh, that's a good question. That's a good question because I don't know if I ever really sat down and thought about it. And I know that this sounds cliche, but I was just honored that God trusted me.
That's good.
With His creation. That was always an honor to me, and that's what kept me. That was kept me on the straight and narrow pretty much with my kids. It's I was just honored that somebody chose me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
He didn't have to, but He did. And any time that I thought different, that thought would come back to mind. And so I had to be so careful of how I guided you guys. And if you know and remember, I wasn't a parent that just said it.
Yeah.
I did it.
You did it. Yeah, she did.
And I tried to raise y'all in the doing. I didn't say don't do this, don't do that. If I told you guys not to do it, then you didn't see me do it.
That's
and
true.
not only did you not see me do it, I didn't do it.
Yeah. That's good. That's
You
good.
know, because I wasn't going to ask something of you guys that I didn't do myself. So oftentimes when I was growing up, it was like, do it because I told you not to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that sometimes y'all probably didn't hear that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if I told you not to do it, you didn't see me do it.
Yeah. And that's true. My mom was a great example, especially of Christian leadership. We saw my mama pray. I remember we saw her cry. We saw her serve her husband at the time. We just saw these things, and whatever she did behind closed doors, we don't know. But she showed us perseverance through prayer. We didn't have a lot, but we didn't go without either. She showed us resiliency, and she showed us how to respect ourselves as young ladies, and my brother, how to treat young ladies, how to treat women. And so I really do respect it about my mom, that she led by example. It wasn't just, I'm just telling y'all to do this, and she out here doing something opposite. And I think that's a not only a crucial part of leadership, but a crucial part of parenting, of how you want to lead yourself, because the way you parent is, I feel like, is the way you leave a legacy. And so the values that you have instilled in us, some of those values I'm going to instill in my kids because of what I grew up. And so it's we pass on from this life, but those values, those belief systems, those things like that continues to go on throughout our generation. And so I know for sure that's one thing I want to leave with my children as I go through that. Oh, you got something to say?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I didn't know then that I was doing something that Dr. Shanita tells us to do when we're leading from within, and I was in the doing.
Yes, I heard you say that. I heard you say that. Yes, she definitely was. She definitely was.
I was in the doing.
She definitely was. And so I'm going to ask her this last question, and we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I hope you guys have been enjoying this. I've been enjoying this conversation, and this is nothing new for me and my mom. Sometimes we sit on the phone for hours just talking about stuff, and just talking and how our relationship over the years have just transformed from mama to daughter to friend. Now there's still a respect component of that, but how it's just, because I think you grow in relationship and you understand boundaries, and not only understanding boundaries, but you also, there's still a respect. And so even when we're leading different people in different industries, you get to this level once you, I hate to use the word proving yourself, but you kind of do have to prove yourself, where both parties do have a standard and do understand
Right.
Who each is, if that makes sense. And so last question, I say this and then I'll be like, I got two more, but last question is, what is the most valuable lesson you've learned about parenting? What is the most valuable lesson that you've learned within yourself as a woman not just as a mom, as a daughter, but as a woman, what is the most valuable lesson you've learned about parenting as Kay Lacy?
Oh, that's a good question. And I mean, I guess you can interpret that in so many ways. But one thing that I would say is that I learned as being a parent is let your yes be your yes and your no be your no. And then that even transcends into even being a person. Like your no is your no, and your yes is your yes. And I don't think that you always have to give reasons for why your yes is your yes and your no is your no. And so I think for me that has been the thing that has allowed me to be who I am as a parent, and then just as a person. That's very important, that you are able to say yes and no, and don't let anybody sway that, especially if it's not the Holy Ghost. You know, you just, and that's what worked for me. That's what worked for me. So I like that, and not giving a reason. My students hear me say that all the time. And my teachers that I lead, I say, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And you don't have to give all those reasons. You know, you don't have to, the reasons that we're here. We don't care about the reasons you're here. We said no. We said yes. And so, Mama, you know, it's been such a joy to have you on this podcast today, the Leaders Coach podcast. I believe that part of who I am is because of who my mama is and who she was and how she raised me, even as a young girl. You know, my mom used to always say, it's not fair. I was the oldest, and when the house didn't get clean in the summertime, I would get in trouble, and I just didn't understand that then. But now I see it more and more, because she saw something that I didn't see. She saw that you were going to be leading people.
She saw my future, and it goes back to what she said at the beginning. She just wanted to be her best, and I believe her best helped us to be our best as she parented us differently, but the love is the same. Well, I know she loved me more. She ain't got to say it, but no, the love is the same, but she parents us differently. Any final words you want to say?
Yes, I have a question for you, but before I ask you the question, I would also like to give a shout out to my son Tyreek, because the girls always feel like he's mama's boy, but I'm with them a lot of the time or whatever, so they know that I love them just as much as I love that boy. But even in that, you know, it's just a difference of parenting. And so even as a girl mom, a boy mom. A boy mom. I just want to say to the boy moms, I think one of the things that had made me successful in being a boy's mom is just letting him be a boy, letting him be who he is, and always reminding him, when you don't like the way someone treats your mom or your sisters, then remember they have a mom or they have a sister. So what I mean is about in relationships. If you don't like when someone does your mom wrong or says something to your mom, then you don't say anything wrong to theirs. Don't mishandle their daughter. You know, you don't like it when somebody says something crazy to your sister, when somebody breaks their hearts. So you remember the same thing. So always be as honest as you can when you're entering these relationships. Let somebody know where you are. Treat them with respect, treat them gentle, treat them with the utmost respect. And I feel like he does that. Like I've never had, you know, a moment when someone has said that he's been rude to a woman. So so boy moms, you have to let these boys grow up to be men. You have to let them be men, right? And then you have to treat them how to treat a woman, not just you. Just not just you, mom. They find a pretty girl and then they into them girls, and then you get in your feelings. but they gonna leave you. So you have to learn how to be the mom.
Yeah.
You have to know your place. You're not the girlfriend.
Yeah.
You know.
That's true.
You are the mom.
Yeah.
And so you have to give them that room to grow. So that's what I wanted to say with that. But a question I wanted to ask you.
Go ahead, baby.
Is you've asked me all these questions.
Oh, here we go. The questions.
So, at what point in your life did you realize, if you can remember, that some of the things that I did, be it good or bad, was for, I don't want to say for your good, was because I was looking out for your best interest? And then how has that shaped you to be the woman you are?
So, first question is something I can remember that what now?
So the moment you may have realized that some of the things that I did or how I guided you guys or instructed you or raised you wasn't to be mean or wasn't to be just to be doing something, but it was for a purpose.
Got you. I don't remember an exact moment, but I do specifically remember this. I remember I was in Arlington. I was because I think I was at the apartment during my master's. Yeah, I was getting my master's at Arlington apartment. And I remember I called you and I said, Mama, thank you. And saying thank you because when I got home, the food wasn't cooked.
They were just using
I didn't smell no food in the air. The lights that I turned on was because I paid the bill. And I think I was about 23. I think it hit me from the perspective of like really realizing how much you did. And this was just me, and I'm like, I don't feel like cooking. I want to buy me some cereal, all those things like that. And so I think for me that moment it just dawned. It was just a thought of gratefulness. I was grateful, and to not only grateful by saying thank you, but also grateful because of the hard work ethic that you put in us. Like I'm doing this, I mean, a place is clean, I
was the maid.
Yeah.
I was the beautician. I was the prayer warrior.
Yeah, she was everything.
I was the cook.
Yeah.
I was the mom.
Yeah, she was. And so I think even with that, I think, everything that you taught us, for me, just hit me in that moment. Like, it just hit me, and I was just like, dang, I am so grateful. Because I didn't realize, and again, it's just me. This is no kids, no husband, no nothing. It's just me. I didn't realize, like, it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. And it's just me. Again, I was like, dang, this is just a lot. And so just being grateful even for that. And so I feel like it shaped me into, into truth. And when I say truth, I mean shape me into reality. That your reality, you don't have to really necessarily look like what you've been through. Because my mama will keep some furniture for 25 years. That furniture don't look like what it's been through. But the truth is, reality of it is, it's 25 years old. It's had its bumps, it had its bruises, it's had all these things, and that's the truth of it. But the reality of it is, it don't look like what it's been through because it knows how to have the bumps and bruises, but continue to move forward and continue to be resilient. And I think that's one thing that I've learned that you've taught me that has shaped me just to be resilient, to be that furniture. This is your truth and reality. You've had some bumps, bruises, experiences, heartaches, pains, all those things like that. But you don't look like it because people can still enjoy you. You don't look all old and sluggy. People can still enjoy the best parts of you, if that makes sense. Because even we're looking at furniture, my mom still got stuff from years ago, but guess what? We can still enjoy it because it still has its value. It still looks good, And so that's what I would say.
That's because I take care of what God allows. If you take care of the things that are given to you, then you nurture it and you keep it, and then it has value. You don't always have to get rid of everything. You can keep some things. And I'm faithful over what God gives me. I'm going to value it. I'm going to take care of it. Now, I'm not going to idolize it, but I am going to take care of it. So.
Now, I like that. I think that's good. So I thank you guys so much for listening to the Leaders Coach podcast with Dr. Shanita Brown. Hey, you guys go ahead and continue just to check us out. Let us know what you think about this episode. Again, we had the one and only she y'all mama too. Look, mama calls me and she's like, "Hey, Dr. Shanita Brown." I say, "Hey, doctor's mama." And so we had the one and only, the doctor's mama, Lacy, here on the Leaders Coach podcast. This will not be her last time. She has a lot of wisdom and value to say and insight, and so I'm just grateful that God chose her to be my mom, be it good, bad, and different, hard times, struggles. But we're here today, and so. And I'm grateful, Mama. Thank you for taking your time out to be here. I don't take it lightly that you said yes. And so hopefully you'll say yes again after this podcast. And so again, you guys, make sure y'all check us out on the leaderscoachpodcast.com, as well as follow us on Instagram at the Leaders Coach Pod. Let us know your thoughts. Join in on this conversation. Engage with us. And we will see you guys on the next episode. Peace.
Peace.
This has been the Leaders Coach Podcast with Dr. Shanita Brown.